name is Brittney Cooper. I'm assistant professor of women's and gender studies and Africana studies at Rutgers University. By training, I'm a Black feminist theorist who studies Black women's intellectual history, hip hop culture, and representations of Black womanhood in popular culture. So my primary area of expertise is actually 19th and early 20th century Black women intellectuals. And I got started studying Black women intellectuals because I went to a wonderful Black college where I learned this history about Black male intellectuals. And there were lots of storied Black women who had been part of the history of my alma mater who I managed not to learn anything about in the 4 years that I spent there. So when I came to graduate school to study African American literature and culture, I began to learn about these wonderful Black women intellectuals, and they helped me to make sense of what it meant for me to be a young, aspiring Black woman intellectual. And they helped me to begin asking questions about why we continue to value Black women as doers, as activists, as organizers, as people who keep communities together, but how we often still overlook the ways in which Black women are theorists, are intellectuals, are people who are deeply invested in explaining the world and trying to understand the sets of social conditions that create such challenges and also sets of possibility for Black people. So I wanted to learn more about Black women intellectuals and to make the case that we had all of these wonderful Black women intellectuals that we hadn't been talking about, that we had not yet studied. So I learned this roll call of big name Black women intellectuals, folks like Ida B. Wells, Mary Church Tyrell, Fannie Barrier Williams, Pauli Murray, Toni Cade Bambara, Anna Arnold Hedgeman. And those women really span the life of the late 19th century through the late 20th century. So if we think about women like Mary Church Tyrell or Ida B. Wells or Fannie Barrier Williams, they were African American club women. And the club women's movement was part of the National Association of Colored Women. And that organization was the largest organization of Black women in the early 20th century. And so we had a place where we knew that Black women were amazing and were doing wonderful work. But when we talked about them, we talked about how they built churches and how they built schools and how they built hospitals and how they built nursing homes. But no one talked about the sets of ideas that all of these fierce Black women came together to create to help Black communities. And so that became a dissertation project for me, going around and trying to map the thought of these women. And it has since become a subsequent book project. And that book is called Beyond Respectability, the Intellectual Thought of Race Women. And my goal in that book is not to write this sort of stuffy academic tome about Black women as thinkers, although I do want it to be taken seriously and to have these women taken seriously. But it's also to say that these women were complex and interesting, that they both thought robustly about how to help Black communities get free by day, but that they were also, fun and interesting folks. So there's the fact that one of the things I discovered as I was writing about Ida B. Wells is that she had a shopping habit. And that sometimes she couldn't pay her rent because she spent too much money at the dressmaker shop, right? I found out as I was writing that Mary Church Tyrell was like an exquisite arbiter of shade, or what we would call shade in this day and time. So I tell a great story in my book about how a bunch of white women kept on mistaking Mary Church Tyrell for a white woman. And they kept asking her where they could find the American Negress that was coming to give a talk at this conference. And they were talking to her and didn't realize who they were talking to. And so she had a joke at their expense and played along with the ruse. And then on the day of the conference, she stands up and gives this magnificent speech in French and German and shuts them all down. And there's a Black girl magic to that we sometimes miss because we think of Mary Church Tyrell as kind of a stuffy, elitist Black lady from the 19th century. So the book is both about trying to make them come alive in ways that make sense for this moment, but also to say that we can't keep telling the story of Black intellectual history as simply a story about great race men. We have these absolutely wonderful Black women who left us a significant intellectual legacy. And I hope that my book participates along with a body of scholarship and decades of work by Black women scholars to help us to take Black women seriously as thinkers and intellectuals.